Welcome back to our series of faith interviews. I'm here now with Peter. Peter, how long have you been coming here?
Been coming to the Church of the Good Shepherd since 1985 when we moved to Brighton.
1985, so that's 2 years before I was born, just to make you feel old. And so you moved to Brighton, and were you looking for a church to come to?
No, not particularly. We had been to church in London. We got married in a church in London. Our children occasionally went to a church in London, to a Sunday school, but we didn't really go. We came down here, and the then vicar arrived on our doorstep about a week after we arrived.
Wow, he'd heard that you'd come.
And heard that we had come.
Wow.
And suggested we might like to come up here, and it would be great for us and our families and our children.
Yeah.
And we did. It was.
And that was that?
And that was that, really. I was not at that time a baptised Christian.
And had you gone to church as a child? Had you been brought up? No.
My father was Jewish.
Okay.
My mother was Church of England. The Jewish tradition is that the faith goes down to the mother's line, and vice versa for the Church of England. So they took the view, they said, oh, well, he can make up his mind when he's older.
Right.
But I think that was more of a cop-out for them not actually going to church. I did occasionally go to synagogue with my father for, Passover and things like that, but not really. My main reason for professing to be Jewish when I was certainly as a teenager, because it avoided me going into assembly at school.
That's a very good reason. So, as a teenager, you were, if anything, you were Jewish, but mainly to get out of assembly.
A
non-practicing Jewish. And you met your now wife.
Yeah.
Did she go to church when you
occasionally
met? Okay.
Occasionally. I mean, I think her mother went to church, and the church we eventually got married in was a fairly high Anglican church in South London, and I went to church with them, enjoyed the services, and when I was at university, which was before I met my now wife, at that time, during that period, I suppose I had a niggling call to some sort of relationship with the divine. I didn't quite know what it was, but it was there.
So
again,
how did you go from, so you moved here, the vicar knocked on your door, you've been here now for the last 41 years. How did you move from being somebody who was just sort of an occasional worshipper to where you are now, which is you're here pretty much every Sunday and you go to church on holiday and would probably definitely call yourself a Christian?
Yes, I would call myself a Christian. How I came? Well, I think, again, the vicar sort of said, well, you ought to think about being baptised. You've become your children. By then our children had been baptised. In fact, they were baptised in London before we moved down here. And I was happy with that. But he said, well, you ought to be. You've got a family, all of whom are baptised. Yeah. You should be. Think about it and go through effectively the baptismal confirmations process, which I did, actually not that long after we moved down here.
Right.
And I did that, and then I started getting involved in various church activities, like serving at the altar and doing various other things.
And how did your faith grow in that time? What sort of difference did it start to make in your life and on what you did?
I think it became more relaxed in a way. I came to perfectly accept that I had a relationship with God, and that relationship was through a relationship with Jesus. But I can't say, it's very difficult. I didn't have at any time a great sudden revelation of, this is it. I wasn't a great conversion.
Yeah, it wasn't a great big flash of light and a big...
I mean, to tell you a story, if you'll forgive me, at the time when I was at university, I just left university, and I had a close friend who had who we had been a bit of a rebellious between us. I rang him up one day and he said, I've come to I'm telling you I've been converted. And at that time they were changing all the gas mains over. And I said, oh, that's good. When did the gas be good? He said, no, I haven't been converted.
No, it's not that the
way.
Gas.
It's been
You've become a Christian.
And I couldn't believe he was the sort of person who would. I mean, he still is. He's still a Christian, and we are still great friends. But it was very strange that at that time the idea of conversion had never entered my head. But so no, my faith nowadays is, I think, I would say fairly solid, but I still have lots of questions.
And what are those questions? What questions do you have, and how do you grapple with them? Well, I think we all have questions, don't we?
I think they're the obvious questions, the questions that you have at the point of anyone finding faith. I mean, they're about things like, how can you reconcile the terrible things that go on in the world, particularly natural disasters, but also the awful things that go on in the name of religion, and have gone in the name of religion to the past, to faith, and then how can you reconcile our faith, our Christian faith, and our seeing Jesus Christ as the way to the Lord, with all the other religions which have most important understandings of God. For example, Judaism and Islam.
Which must be very interesting, having been brought up sort of Jewish.
Yes.
Like how does that? I mean, how does the Jewish faith influence your faith now and your understanding of it, and your growing up a bit with it?
Well, it seems to me, and I mean, it is to me, it's a personal thing. I think the Jewish faith is incomplete. It has a lot of things going for it, which I think are wonderful.
Yeah.
But it needs completion.
You found something in Christ, which for you has completed that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah, yeah. And how do how has your faith helped you in times in your life that have felt especially challenging or difficult?
I think I quietly can have a conversation with God about the things that worry me. I don't necessarily get any immediate answers, but it is a way of actually dealing with difficult situations.
And what do you think people misunderstand about, or their misconceptions, do you think, about coming to church and about Christianity?
Oh.
And did you have any that you found?
Oh, yes, I think I did. But certainly, I think the thing that people most worry about in relation to church is of all the negatives about it being prescriptive. You have to do exactly what you're told. You have to there are so many.
You're doing exactly as you're told, sitting here. When I said, "Will you come and be interviewed?" But no, I know what you mean.
But you have to. They look at the Christian church and say there are so many denominations, they can't, and they argue amongst themselves. They can't all be right. They look at Christianity and look at all the sort of things that have happened in the name of Christianity, and the people and the problems that the Church of England have had with safeguarding, all the negatives, and they see the negatives without necessarily seeing the positives.
And what are the positives for you about being a churchgoer?
The positives are being able to have a relationship with God through Jesus, which may sound difficult to actually explain, but it actually helps in my daily life. That's apart from the actual fact that the people in meeting with people in church, the friendliness, the welcome, all the other things.
Yeah, yeah. So what would you say to somebody who was I've asked this question to everybody who was waiting by the bus stop or going on the bus past or driving down Dyke Road, and they see our building. You know, we're quite big and we're obvious and we're at the top of a hill, but is wondering what goes on inside, and is perhaps wondering about sort of something that you experienced perhaps at university when you just had this sense that maybe there is something more. Yeah. What would you say to somebody?
If they come inside, you'll be made very welcome. We're not going to judge you or make you do things you don't want to do. Just come and see what's happening. As the psalmist wrote, taste and see. Taste and see,
yes. Bishop Will has a great line at confirmations when he says, you know, you can try before you buy. And
yes.
Absolutely you can, yeah. That we're here and as you said, I think would be made very welcome. Peter, thank you very much for your time. It's been really fascinating hearing, especially about your Jewish upbringing and how that has kind of informed your faith. So thank you.
Thank you.